Welcome to Space Matrix. Tonight on PulseWire, we're tracking a crisis in the South China Sea that's drawing in global superpowers. Tensions have spiked as the US and UK deploy major naval forces in response to China's assertive moves near the Philippines. This isn't just a regional spat. These waters are the front line in a contest over international law and freedom of navigation. China continues to claim territory within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, ignoring a 2016 tribunal ruling. Recent weeks have seen Chinese vessels harassing Filipino boats, but now, Western warships are sending a clear message: treaty obligations will be honored. The US is reinforcing its oldest Asian ally, while the UK flexes its post-Brexit muscle. At stake is a fundamental clash: the rules-based order versus Beijing's push for dominance. What happens here could set the tone for international relations for decades. The world is watching to see if diplomacy or force will define the future. Stay with us for the latest updates on this high-stakes standoff. This is Space Matrix. The US has made a rare move, publicly announcing the deployment of an Ohio-class submarine near the Philippines. These subs are among the most powerful weapons on Earth, capable of launching nuclear or conventional strikes. Revealing its presence is a calculated act of deterrence, signaling to Beijing that any aggression carries enormous risk. Normally, these submarines operate in total secrecy. This time, the message is unmistakable. The psychological impact on China's military planners is profound. Every move now carries the threat of invisible, unstoppable force. The Ohio class is just one part of a larger U.S. task force, including the USS Ronald Reagan Carrier Strike Group. The combination of visible and invisible power creates a multi-layered deterrent. For allies like the Philippines, Japan, and Australia, this is proof that U.S. security commitments are real. The stakes are higher than ever, and the U.S. is making sure Beijing knows it. The world is on edge. The U.S. isn't alone. The U.K. has sent its own carrier strike group, led by HMS Prince of Wales, to the region. This is Britain's Pacific pivot in action, showing it's still a global military power. The British force includes F-35B stealth jets, a Type 45 destroyer, and an Astute-class submarine, all interoperable with U.S. assets. The message, aggression against one ally, will trigger a coalition response. For the UK, this is about more than alliances. It's about protecting vital trade routes and national interests. Britain's presence reassures regional partners and signals a long-term commitment to Indo-Pacific security. The UK is putting its most advanced hardware on the line for the rules-based order. The stakes for global trade and security couldn't be clearer. The coalition is united. For the Philippines, this crisis is personal. It's about sovereignty and survival. Filipino fishermen have faced years of harassment, but now, with US and UK backing, Manila is standing firm. The armed forces of the Philippines are on high alert, patrolling contested waters alongside American and British ships. This joint presence deters Chinese aggression and boosts Filipino morale. Nationalism is surging, with public support for President Marcos Jr.'s tough stance. We spoke to a fisherman in Palawan. For years we were afraid. Now with allies here, we have hope. The crisis has accelerated military modernization, with new ships, missiles, and surveillance gear arriving. The US-Philippines Defense Pact is fully activated, giving American forces access to key bases. The Philippines is transforming from a passive victim to an active frontline state. The nation is preparing for a long-term struggle. Beijing sees the Allied naval buildup as a direct provocation. Chinese state media denounces Western imperialism, while the PLA launches its own military exercises, including carrier deployments and live-fire drills. China's claim, the 9-dash line, was rejected by an international court, but Beijing is doubling down. The PLA's arsenal includes thousands of missiles and militarized artificial islands, designed to keep foreign navies at bay. China's message, sovereignty is a red line, and it's ready to defend its claims. The presence of US nuclear assets is seen as an existential threat by Chinese hardliners. The risk of miscalculation is high. A single incident could spiral out of control. China hopes intimidation will force its rivals to back down, but its rigid stance leaves little room for compromise. The standoff is dangerously volatile. The South China Sea isn't just a military flashpoint. It's a global economic artery. 1/3 of world shipping, worth over $3 trillion a year, passes through these waters. Tensions have already driven up insurance costs and forced some ships to reroute, raising prices for consumers everywhere. Stock markets are jittery, and energy prices are climbing as LNG shipments face uncertainty. The world's supply chains, still fragile from the pandemic, are at risk. Some analysts think China is betting the West won't risk economic chaos for a standoff. But letting one nation control this vital sea lane is an even bigger long-term threat. That's why the US and its allies are making a stand now. The economic stakes are as high as the military ones. As warships face off, diplomats scramble to prevent disaster. The UN Security Council is set to meet, but China's veto power looms large. Direct military hotlines are open to avoid accidental clashes. 3 scenarios are emerging: de-escalation, a tense stalemate, or open conflict. The best case, China backs down and all sides save face, but the dispute remains unresolved. More likely is a prolonged standoff, with the South China Sea becoming a militarized flashpoint. The worst case, a clash that triggers treaty obligations and global war. The stakes could not be higher. We'll keep you updated as this crisis unfolds. For Space Matrix and PulseWire, thank you for watching.